This is a message to that neighbour. We see you, we hear you, we know what you are doing, we see through the bullshit. We know who and what you are, and we know who and what your child is, and what his girlfriend is. Before we get into the video, I would just like to urge you all to please hit subscribe. You're going to be helping me out, and you are going to be the first to be notified for some awesome, weird, and intriguing content. Hit subscribe. Let's get into the video.
We know that dogs tracked in this very vicinity. We know that Max and Rex, the two German shepherds from Sumner County Sheriff's Office, they both tracked into the yard of this neighbour, someone called Bobbie, who lives at the top of Kelling Lane, blaming Chris and Katie, thinking that Chris and Katie murdered Sebastian or took his body away, and absolute nonsense. This latest piece of surveillance video released by the PI, Steve Fisher, SF Investigates, shows a kid. This is next door to Bobbie's house, and they've got a surveillance camera. And you can see somebody, now, coming from the vicinity of Bobbie's house, you've kind of got to think, well, it's Bobbie's son, because Bobbie has said that her son was out playing flashlight tag. And you can see in this footage, if we go back here, you can see somebody standing there scanning the environment with a flashlight. So this is 25th of February 2024, just before 10:20. This is minutes after Katie told Sebastian to go to sleep. Sebastian had gone to bed around 9 p.m, around 10ish. Katie said she heard a thud coming from his room. She told him to go to sleep. He said, "Yes, ma'am." She didn't hear anything else from him as far as we know. A couple of hours later, around midnight, Katie went to bed, and then the rest is history. So, was that thud someone maybe, perhaps, knocking on Sebastian's window, throwing something against Sebastian's window to alert him to the fact that there's a game of flashlight tag? Sebastian was bullied somewhat at school, and he was desperate for friends. So much so that he would say that all he wanted for Christmas was friends. Perhaps someone from his school, perhaps maybe the girlfriend of this person who's playing flashlight tag in the neighbourhood on the very night that Sebastian disappears. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Bobbie has been in the background feeding information against Katie and Chris to various YouTube channels, dripping poison into the case. And you've got to ask yourself why. Because she didn't know Chris, Katie or Sebastian before this case, but she's been doing her own little mini investigation and feeding YouTubers her quote-unquote evidence. You know, that Katie, Chris, and I think she said Seth originally, all involved in disappearing Sebastian. Bobbie, perhaps, maybe, should look closer to home, because her kid, who was, I don't know, maybe 18 at this time, was out there on that night. We don't know what time he went in. Now, SF Investigates says there's more additional suspicious activity that took place even later that night, so go ahead. Call us liars. We'll discuss the search that took place at the son's girlfriend's house, along with other interesting facts you've conveniently ignored. But in the footage, 10:20, her son exits the house with a flashlight. He then turns it off, crouches down, and even moves deeper into the shadows to avoid being seen. Minutes later, he walks to the backyard, the same backyard where two canines independently tracked the following day. We also heard from the dispatch audio that Bobbie's kid was out there helping law enforcement. I think it was one of the drone operators, says over dispatch that they see someone. A cop replies saying, "Oh, he's with us, he's helping us." So Bobbie's son is out early in the morning, staying close to the investigation, maybe, possibly. Sebastian was out there that night. He absolutely was out there that night. We know from the tracks that the dogs got, none of them led to Sebastian, obviously, but we know that his scent was out there. The fact that there's at least one kid, and if you're playing flashlight tag, you got to be playing with at least one other person. They were out there the same night. So what time did they go in? If they saw Sebastian, what direction did he go in? Did you speak to him? Was this girlfriend out there as well? Was it her that said she was going to go meet him? Was she leading Sebastian on? There's all of these questions swirling around in my brain that I don't know the answer to, that I'd like to know the answer to. I'd like to know why Chris knew this girl's name. Was it from positive things that Sebastian had been saying, or negative things? It's very intriguing that that girl's house was searched.
I remember last year now, it was last year, it might even be technically more than 12 months ago now, considering how long Sebastian has been missing. I remember making videos and putting out content on YouTube, on this channel, ghost box sessions. I was putting out ghost box sessions, and in some of those ghost box sessions I got in replies references to more than one person being involved, and a fucking girl, right? I'm going to bleep that out, but you're going to get the gist of what I've just said. A girl. Not only did I get that in responses in ghost box sessions, in videos that I put out on this channel, but it was also a feeling that I got. I sat down and I thought about it, and I sort of like tried to connect to the spirit world, if you want to call it that. And the feeling that I got back was that it was laid out, there was more than one person involved, and there was definitely a girl involved. That was a very strong feeling for me, even to the point where I used to go around other YouTubers' channels when they were doing live streams and comment on the videos as well, but mostly live streams, because in this corner of YouTube, our corner of YouTube, that's what people mostly do, it's live streams. I remember going into live streams of pretty well-known YouTubers in our corner of YouTube, in our field, the true crime field anyway. I know my channel's True Crime plus Paranormal, but in the true crime field, these YouTubers are very well-known. And at that point, I was just getting to know them, right? I would go into their live streams, and I wouldn't say, a neighbour's done it, a neighbour's got him, a neighbour's unalived him, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not how I said it, because I understand that I might be wrong, but this is a feeling that I got. And I don't think I'm wrong, but I'd go into YouTubers' streams and I'd say, why isn't anybody looking at the neighbours, I'd mention, what if a neighbour was involved? What if, it makes sense, because if there's cameras all around that street, then a neighbour that's lived there for quite some time would maybe know where those cameras pointed and could possibly get to somebody's house undetected, or something like that. Maybe a neighbour knew positioning of certain cameras and stuff. That was my reasoning back then, because of the feeling that I got and because of the responses that I got through spirit box sessions, right? And I'd go into YouTubers' channels and I'd say, what about neighbours? What about this? Maybe a neighbour did this. It could have been a neighbour because of this, blah, that type of thing. And all I'd get was, oh no, the neighbours are really nice. It wasn't the neighbours, it wasn't any of the neighbours. And they were pretty well-known YouTubers, right? And I don't want to make this video about drama, but I was getting to know this one YouTuber at the time, and he likes pearl necklaces, right? I don't know how to say it. I discussed this with him in his channel once on a live stream that he was doing, and he shut me down straight away. Wasn't the neighbours are really nice. The neighbours are really nice. And this is what I got, like, throughout of YouTube back then, when I was going into people's live streams and mentioning what if it was a neighbour because of this. What about the neighbours? What about a neighbour? Maybe a neighbour did something or saw something or was involved in some way, and I'd get shut down constantly got shut down, right? And then somebody starts putting themselves into the investigation, into the case, unwarranted, when they didn't even know the parents, step parents either, of Sebastian. This woman, this neighbour, Bobbie, is it? The neighbour, is saying stuff about Katie and Chris. She doesn't even know them. Saying stuff about Seth when she doesn't even know him. Saying stuff like Michelle said, that they've murdered him and they've got rid of him, when she doesn't even know them, right? The morning of his disappearance, when the police were doing their initial searches, the first search, that morning, the neighbours' kids were out helping the police. Like Michelle said, keeping close to the investigation, were they? Because when it comes to cases like this, history has shown us that people that tend to do that out of the blue are usually either the perpetrator or are really close to the perpetrator, and that's what they're doing. And you see it all the time on TV, not to be that guy, but it's a true thing that happens. Somebody causes the disappearance or the unaliving of somebody, and they get close to the investigation because they want to know what's going on. They want to know if the police are onto them or if other people are onto them. This neighbour has pushed herself, forced herself into the investigation, not just officially, but with YouTubers as well, drip feeding people, YouTubers, information that, in my opinion, is BS. Is total BS. You don't know the family. How can you know all this about them and their character and then judge their character based off of not knowing a thing about them? You fool. I'm sorry, that made me angry. She put herself into the investigation, and in my opinion, and I commented this on Michelle After Dark's video, I said something similar to this. In my opinion, I think, I might be wrong, but I'm certain that one or more of her children, maybe the 18-year-old, was all the girlfriend of that child, her child, were involved, and she has got herself involved in the investigation, officially and non-officially, online YouTubers on this platform, right? To sort of dictate or try and dictate and manipulate the narrative, because she knows her kid and her kid's girlfriend are involved in some way in the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers. She trying to protect her child, right? And in turn protect his girlfriend, because if she gets caught, then he gets caught. And the thing is, you might be saying, oh, this is a crazy theory. It's not. It's not even crazy theory. There's some people out there that have come up with crazier theories, right? Go look back on this investigation and the content being put out at the time and what people were saying. Absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts, right? So I've been saying this basically on and off for nearly a year. I said it back then, really early on in the investigation, that I feel like, and not just that I feel like, but I actually caught on video through a spirit box session that there is a girl involved and there is more than one person involved. I was saying it back then. I was trying to talk to people back then about this, trying to maybe introduce that into the narrative that was going on back then on YouTube. But no, people were solely focused on Katie and Chris. They did something to him and unalived him and got rid of him. And the other side were focused on Seth. He did something to him. Some people even suggested that Seth might have gotten somebody else to do something to him and then get rid of him. No, I don't believe for 1 second any parents, step or not, did anything to Sebastian to unalive him and then make him disappear. I think he was definitely lured out somehow, and then he come a cropper, as I would say over here in Yorkshire in the UK. The poor lad, I think he was manipulated. I do think, I said this back then again, I do think a girl manipulated him. And there was more than one person involved, and they did it on purpose for their own nefarious means. A 15-year-old autistic child who just wanted friends was hurt just for being an autistic child. Because it was weird. I don't think it's weird. They probably thought it was. That's what I meant. I've been... it gets to me because I've been... I said this back then. I said it back then. Nobody listened to me. Nobody on YouTube wanted to even entertain the idea. And now they've all switched to Jack and Lily. And don't get me wrong, Jack and Lily deserve all the attention they are getting. But so does Sebastian Rogers. And all these YouTubers who I said back then when I fell out with them were just in it for the views have done exactly what I said they were going to do. They've dropped Sebastian when the next big case has come along. Said it back then. It's doing my head in that I wasn't listened to. And I don't think I'm not one of these people that thinks I'm constantly right about everything. You know, there are some people out there that believe that I am that type of person. I'm not. But on this, again, I felt something. I spoke out about what I felt. People ignored me, and it's turning out that maybe more than one person was involved, and maybe one of them was a girl, and maybe he was manipulated because that girl's property where she lived was also searched. Why would the police do that? Why would the police do that? I can see where this case is going to go. I can see where it's going to go. This is a message to that neighbour. We see you, we hear you, we know what you are doing, we see through the bullshit. We know who and what you are, and we know who and what your child is, and what his girlfriend is. Normally I'd sit there and say, I could be wrong, and maybe I am. But with this, because of what I felt back then, to what's coming out now, maybe I was right on some of that. Maybe I was right. People should have listened. People should have listened.